Intelligent alien life is out there, and particularly if it has ever visited Earth, then it's a good bet it'll be carrying some super advanced technology. Consider a potential alien ship that turns up here from some distant star system or galaxy. It would have to be capable of crossing the vast distances of interstellar space, something we're not even close to achieving. But naturally, if any of that were possible, then we'd definitely be interested in finding out how. Governments sure have a history of concealing things related to UFOs. In America, the most famous example is probably the handling of the Roswell crash in 1947. Over the years, the official story has been changed from it being a flying saucer, then a weather balloon, then a nuclear surveillance device, while doubts remain about even that answer, and the claims of extraterrestrial have never truly gone away. Elsewhere, according to reports from the UK National Archives released in 2010, wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill had ordered claims of UFO sightings in Britain to be censored and kept secret, in an effort to avoid panic in the general population. We've seen something similar to that more recently, back in America again, with claims by an ex-Pentagon official who had previously headed the once classified Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He alleges that the government had forced him to keep secret the UFO details uncovered by AATIP. Aside from the supposed fears of inducing public panic, which in itself is challenged by some as an unfair and unrealistic prediction of what the reaction would be, another repeatedly cited reason for keeping UFOs secret is that governments would rather reverse engineer them without the rest of the world watching on. There are a number of first-hand testimonies to this end, with so-called anti-gravity tech continually brought up. Broadly, anti-gravity refers to the potential to control gravity, so that an object or location is free from its effects, like shuttles are in deep space. According to the leading theories we currently have on gravity, including the equations of Einstein and Newton, anti-gravity seemingly isn't possible. But in a modern world where science is desperately trying to marry up macro physics with quantum mechanics, there are growing suspicions that there's a lot we don't know, including that anti-grav actually could be possible. Talk of anti-gravity and gravity control and propulsion generally appeared quite suddenly in documents and reports, especially in America, not long after Roswell, in the mid-20th century. And although the details of some are still kept under wraps, several programs are said to have formed around that time, some official, some not so, to study anti-gravity and potentially build tech that's capable of it. Next question, did those programs succeed? One of the most famous accounts comes from Bob Lazar, who claims to have been hired as a physicist in the 1980s at S4, a secretive research base near Area 51. Lazar is something of a divisive figure, with the US government insisting that his story is untrue. And even some of the schools that Lazar says he attended while studying for his position citing zero records of him. Nevertheless, Lazar himself asserts that the government has tried to systematically erase his past and has continually refused to back down. The reason why he's so controversial? He cites that while working at S4, he saw real alien technology, and specifically anti-gravity-enabled UFOs. Across numerous reports and interviews, he recalls seeing spaceships with anti-gravity cylinders and setups, essentially allowing them to impossibly fly in any direction in an instant. And the key driver behind the spectacular things Lazar claims to have seen was a previously unknown element, Element 115. Fast forward a few years, and scientists have now managed to create 115 just on regular old planet Earth, but have so far been unable to keep it stable. Lazar insists, though, that it's this mysterious product which powers alien ships that the government already knows about. And in fact, one idea is that the development of 115 in recent times might perhaps be traced back to Lazar's days on his top-secret work, when the team he was part of were allegedly tasked with reverse engineering the captured ET vehicles. Unsurprisingly, there have been countless dismissals of Lazar's claims over time, with his ideas being brandished as conspiracy theory only. But his supporters argue that Lazar's case has actually been strengthened in recent years. Rather than proven false, he's been backed up with further evidence. Around the early 2000s, video clips began emerging from within the US Air Force and Navy, seemingly detailing the same kinds of mysterious flying objects that were allegedly under study in the 1980s. Apparent airborne vehicles, seemingly capable of bending the laws of physics, potentially via anti-gravity technology, with one of the most famous examples being the USS Nimitz encounter with a Tic Tac UFO in 2004, demonstrating instant acceleration and flawless sharp turns, but seemingly without wings or a recognizable propulsion system. The Tic Tac has come to be one of the most enigmatic UFO sightings of recent times. In 2021, the official UAP report released by the U.S. authorities further brought it and more than 100 other similar cases under the microscope. Across land and sea, we're seemingly seeing more and more would-be probes or ships moving and behaving in unprecedented ways. So much so that a 2022 multi-authored research paper published in the journal EPL argued that the mysterious capabilities shown in UFO footage really could be explained by anti-gravity technology. For supporters of Bob Lazar, it's as though the rest of the world is finally catching on to what he's been saying for decades. And while they've allegedly done so in the past, it's getting harder and harder for governments to hush up the evidence. Full disclosure, perhaps, is just around the corner. Advocates claim that there's a pretty clear timeline to follow. Something crashes in Roswell in the 1940s. Shortly afterwards, science in general starts to research anti-grav tech. Then, in the late 80s, Bob Lazar claims to have seen anti-gravity UFOs in real life, painting a reasonably accurate picture of how we'd now expect one to work. And today, we have footage from all across America and the world, apparently, of these things in action. It isn't only Bob Lazar who's defying the official line either. Other serving and former military members have voiced their beliefs regarding potential ET vehicles housed in the U.S. and elsewhere. The naval aviator Donald Keyhoe and Army officer Philip J. Corso, for example, believe on record that there has already been significant progress made with UFO tech and that it's potentially already been reverse engineered from existing machines. It's a topic that in the past might have been passed off as nonsense or unscientific, but in today's world, that's no longer the case. Whole teams of scientists and academics at major institutions, ranging from NASA to Harvard to MIT, have reportedly hosted meetings and events specifically to discuss anti-gravity and the potential links between it and UFOs. Importantly, a UFO doesn't automatically mean an alien vehicle, but never before has the ET concept been so talked about at the top tables of research. Finally, though, let's consider the situation if there is already proof of anti-gravity out there. Why cover it up? That ex-Pentagon former AATIP official from earlier, Luis Elizondo, has previously claimed that he was made to keep evidence of UFOs secret because of reasons like religious concerns, the potential for mass panic, and fears that UFO science could risk the reputation of those higher up in positions of power. Of course, another possibility is that if any government were to have knowledge of anti-gravity or any other similarly advanced technology, then they'd perhaps want to keep it secret to avoid other governments, states, and nations learning all about it. As much as anything else, this kind of thing would double up as top-level military weapon research. For now, there's no hard, officially verified evidence to say that any of this is actually possible or in existence. The general sentiment does appear to be shifting, however. From the worlds of science, the military, and politics, we're getting more and more voices speaking out, seemingly willing to reveal what the official line won't. Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, for example, while reportedly claiming to have once been hesitant about proposed UFO tech, is said to now be much more accepting of it. He's not alone. With increasing numbers of official reports and investigations being made into the subject, perhaps it's only a matter of time before more revelations come out. It seemingly wouldn't shock the likes of Bob Lazar and his followers, but how would you feel if anti-gravity UFOs were suddenly a present-day reality? It's a brave new world that could be out there. It's just that, according to some, the government is still intent on keeping it to themselves. While we're by now well acquainted with most of the materials and objects on our home planet Earth, there's still so much we don't know about space, and especially about what's circling closest to our world. Most of the random things that exist in Earth's atmosphere are assumed to be debris. But could there be something more intelligent lurking among all that trash? Whenever NASA sends rockets or probes up into space, they're usually equipped with some sort of camera to capture various parts of our solar system on video. Sometimes, then, these feeds are made available to the public, and it's not unusual to see unidentified objects floating around. This is mainly because Earth is covered in a shell of space debris formed from bits of rock and sometimes equipment that's found its way into our atmosphere, broken apart, and now we're stuck with it in orbit. Because of how fast all of this debris is traveling, even the smallest amount does have the potential to cause a catastrophe. If it makes contact with an operating ship, for example, or a space station, it could puncture the walls and trigger a disaster. As such, NASA keeps track of some 27,000 known pieces of debris. It's a mammoth task for the agency, and it's only set to get bigger as humanity seeks to expand its presence in space in the future. Because there's so much junk floating around up there, though, every so often we stumble across something, a particular piece of space debris, that causes a stir down here on the ground, and especially with ufologists and UFO hunters. In this vein, one of the more significant space photos was taken in 1998 during the STS-88 mission on the International Space Station. At first glance, it's perhaps just one photo among many, but there's a growing backstory to this image, because it's believed by some to show the infamous Black Knight satellite. The Black Knight satellite has a seemingly long history, said to date back more than 100 years to 1899, when the esteemed physicist Nikola Tesla was famously staging experiments with radio. During one of those experiments, he reportedly heard a strange transmission echoing back from space. Modern scholars tend to now attribute it to a category of object that was unknown at the time, pulsars, or to it being a transmission from Earth that Tesla wrongly suspected was coming from space. Others, however, believe that what Tesla really experienced was a type of first contact with intelligent extraterrestrial beings via a nearby artificial probe. There's a general idea, then, that such a probe exists around Earth, the Black Knight satellite, and that Tesla accidentally discovered it all those years ago. Before then, though, it's suggested that it may have gone unnoticed for literally thousands of years, with some versions of the legend claiming that the Black Knight first entered Earth's atmosphere some 13,000 years ago. It's really multiple strange instances that have led to the formation of the